welcome back everyone to the Midtown View. I am Jim Wenk, and thanks for joining our next episode here. With me today, I am so pumped, proud, I can't provide another adjective to have my very, very good friend, my brother, Chris Laul. Chris.
Yeah, Jim, it's a pleasure.
Thanks for being with us.
There's no better view, by the way.
I know what. Thanks for coming in. This is awesome, and we've been friends and business partners for a really long time.
Yes, indeed.
And you know, part of the gist of kind of having this show is just hearing people's personal and professional stories and getting their outlook on business, how they weave life into business. And you've been associated now with a really, really prestigious global architecture firm, and so would just kind of love to share with the audience maybe a bit about what's a day in the life of Chris Laul at HOK, and if you want to tell the audience how we originally met. I don't even know all the particulars, but I think that'd be cool to share with the group.
I'd be happy to. You know, it's funny, I think I mentioned to you earlier, just walking over here was nostalgic for me. I started my career right down the block on 53rd Street in Madison at Brendan Biergorman Architects. And as a weird strike of fate, HOK ended up acquiring that firm, which I had a hand in a decade ago. So it's like, I came right out, I went to Fordham University, came right out of college, and started working for Brendan Biergorman, and it all became one big firm once HOK acquired them. So it's been an interesting evolution over the past. Now I'm coming up on 19 years at HOK this year, so it's been a long time.
So BBG.
Yeah.
So you started with BBG right out of Fordham.
Yes.
Almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, 20 years at HOK and an additional 10 at BBG. So I'm showing my age and my gray hair. For sure.
No way.
Yeah, but yeah, almost 30 years in the industry. I think it's I can't believe how fast the years have gone, but it's been interesting because I'm not an architect, and I must be a glutton for punishment working in this industry, not as an architect, but I think me arriving in architecture kind of just worked out. I have a marketing background from Fordham. I always had a love of design, architecture, and art. I'm a fine artist. I have, as you know, you have a piece in your office. I've been painting for over 30 years. Had gallery shows in New York and Santa Fe, New Mexico, et cetera, and done a number of commissions. And I think the love of art really drove me into this profession. And I sort of crafted a position for myself that I think benefited not only my love of the culture, but also I think it's also fed my business success.
So it kind of you kind of have these two passions, if you will,
Yes.
running in parallel,
Mm-hmm.
where you have your love for your creativity and your and expressing that through your artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do I have a piece in my office, but I have your incredible book.
Yeah,
that
sure.
that I know is near and dear to you and your family. But I think you've been able to harness that passion and creativity not only through through your expression of art, but in business.
Sure.
Because as we all know, in the super competitive environment that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it takes creativity to win that assignment, win that marquee project,
Yep.
win that customer relationship. And I think it'd be interesting just to hear, maybe from your perspective, and HOK is attached to a lot of real marquee
sure.
projects over the years.
Absolutely.
And if you want to highlight a couple where that you've been attached to closely, or we always love to talk about the pursuit,
Yes.
and pursuing these projects because they take a long time developing the relationship, developing the right internal team, and ultimately, the clients decide to partner with you and HOK.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
I mean, yeah, we're operating in the most competitive city in the world, in my opinion. I certainly, I think you'd agree on the corporate brokerage side of things. It's a tough place, and we're up against the best of the best. And what's the differentiator? That's always that comes up, and I think it comes down to, it's a cliche, but it really does come down to that personal relationship and how do you build trust? How can you be generous with your clients and prospective clients to really endear them and deliver what they need and solve their problems at the end of the day?
Yes.
You mentioned some of the projects at HOK. I can remember early on in my career, we were pursuing a corporate headquarters for LG, the electronics company.
Sure.
In Wood Cliffs, New Jersey, not far from where I live, and I think that was a turning point for my career development at the firm. It was an important transformative project at the time, a corporate headquarters. HOK really does specialize in those sort of signature projects, and this represented that, and it was right in our backyard at a time when there wasn't a lot of that development.
So give me an idea, what time frame are we in?
LG was probably maybe 14 years ago.
Okay, so maybe right around the financial crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not a lot going on.
We were in the midst of doing Canon's corporate headquarters out on Long Island.
Sure.
And I was knee deep in that. I remember that was a cold call actually during one of my first weeks at HOK.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. I sort of oversold myself to get the position, and I was nervous, and got some intelligence that they were developing that project, and just hustled because you just have to do that sometime.
Yes.
You and I joke, we have to go out and go out hunting and bring the food back to the family, and that's literally I just had a newborn baby and had to hustle, and it works. That's good motivation.
It is. Well, it's good to pass on those success stories to not only people you're mentoring, but children.
For sure.
Kids that are coming out of school. That relationships are absolutely paramount. But by the way, the good old-fashioned cold call
Occasionally works.
that it occasionally works.
Yes.
And you get someone at the right time in the right place.
Yes.
And you don't have to be perfect.
Yep.
But they say, you know what, we're actually thinking about this. Good timing.
It was good timing. I certainly had luck on my side at the time, and I had a powerful firm, a powerful portfolio, and some very smart people that really backed me up. And that ended up being a very successful project that obviously was instrumental to the LG win. But I can remember really driving out to dropping everything whenever they needed something, literally delivering things by hand to the client to make sure that they knew that we would do anything to make this project successful. And not all. It's certainly those are two examples, but not all project pursuits are that simple. And especially in architecture, the gestation period for pursuits is very, very long. In some cases, it's 5 years. So the amount of patience required from first handshake to signing a contract is just, it takes a lot of patience, perseverance, and many of our projects are like that. Many of the large civic, government, and institutional projects require enormous amount of planning and years of preparation to win.
So you have a large amount of stakeholders. You're selling to, you're collaborating with, you need to get finite agreements with between in some of these projects we were talking about, these public-private partnerships where you're getting input from city councils or government officials, and then you have the corporations, you have executives, you have who's financing it.
Without a doubt.
And you're kind of a broker in a way. I mean, you're bringing a lot of these parties together.
I was in a meeting this morning talking about an upcoming design build project, and in many ways we're like the conductor for these projects. We have to marry ourselves to the appropriate builder. We have to, in some cases, for a P3, public-private partnership, there's an operator involved, a financier involved, and we're in the middle of those conversations, which frankly is very exciting from my perspective. Of course, there's always, the political red tape that needs to be navigated as well. But, and then, just the myriad of consultants that fall under our umbrella that have to be managed. And MWBE percentage requirements for minority, women-owned business, veteran-owned businesses, really creating composing a team that is complementary and it allows us to be competitive and fulfills all the requirements.
Yes.
So it's never a dull moment. I think that's one of the things that's kept me excited about the industry. I'm fortunate to wear a lot of different hats. I work with some really amazing people, and it's every day is sort of exciting.
And you're procuring opportunities and bringing these teams together, not just in New York, but firm-wide, right?
Sure. So I wear two different hats. When I first started at HOK, I was strictly in the New York practice, in New York studio.
That's when we met, right? Yeah.
It evolved since I was instrumental and worked with my partners in opening up an office in Philadelphia, which is now thriving. Last year, we opened up an office in Boston. So my regional responsibilities are the Northeast, and then I wear a firm-wide hat. I co-chair a firm-wide marketing board, which essentially connects all of our market-based business leaders, folks who are really involved in driving business and work to the firm. We host a variety of meetings, essentially they're sales meetings, taking a look at our opportunity pipeline, making sure that we're not tripping over one another, competing against one another. Doing, it sounds silly, but yeah, it's a big firm, 26 offices, almost 2,000 people. Everyone's out there hunting. You want to make sure that that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. There's our co-CEOs have a very aggressive growth initiative, so there's a lot of pressure on our marketing and business development leaders to drive work and to be accountable. So the board that I co-chair is really about that accountability. So that's exciting. So for signature pursuits, I certainly get involved. $billion-dollar plus projects. We want to make sure that we're applying the resources, training, et cetera, to give us the best chances to win.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you continue to do amazing work.
It's been fun, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just kind of, I don't want to say totally switching gears, but you have, on a somewhat personal level, you have two amazing sons.
I do. I certainly do, yeah.
One's in the workforce.
Yes.
Now here in New York.
Yep.
And one is currently still in college.
A sophomore in college. He's currently gallivanting around Europe, studying abroad, having a good time. I'm very jealous. And my older son is working in our industry right now as well, and just finished a course of study. So, yeah, very proud of them for sure.
That's amazing. I always, because I have three young sons as well. Just reflecting, obviously a lot changes over the years with technology. And we're in this whole AI revolution, and but there's other things that will never change. Like developing relationships and connecting people, and I guess have you thought about what guidance you're going to provide your sons and other people you mentor in your business? That it's almost like I wish I had that knowledge when I was in my early 20s, besides work hard and, is there anything that's comes to mind that's different or that you wish you had more knowledge sooner? And the reason why I ask that is because through social media, I'll just say social media, for example, there is so much information readily available to everybody. No matter what you're looking for. So it's just, curious if you had a perspective on it. If you do, you do. If you don't, you know.
You know, yeah. So as you know, being a father, you're always providing guidance to your sons. You want them to get off on the right foot, and you know, you want them to be successful and happy and healthy and all that good stuff. And so if they were sitting here, they'd be rolling their eyes because I give them an earful at every opportunity in terms of what they, you know, how they could learn from my mistakes, learn from my successes. And sitting here, you know, in my 50s, you know, my perspective is very different than them in their 20s or, you know, and as I often express to them, you know, technology is going to keep changing. Everything, you know, the world is going to keep moving along. The one thing that I think is going to be a differentiator for them is the relationships, is being able to value time with others and be genuine and generous. I think the more that you give, it comes back to you in spades. And I have found that time and time again, and it has become it's actually become a joke among my team, and my marketing team at HOK. I call it the love boomerang. And I think I joked with you about this at one point too, because I think the more I can give my prospective clients, my partners, my team members, my friends, the more you can give and share, it just inevitably comes back in a really beautiful way. And I, you know, I stand by that, and that's what I share with them. I'm like, guys, stuff doesn't matter as much as you think it does right now, and you lose track of that. You know, young guys are on this mission. You know, I need all the fancy stuff, which is great, and I love fancy stuff as well. But I'll tell you, there's like a switch that gets flipped, and the real priorities become very, very apparent. As in the not too distant future, you know, it's really about time spent with people who you care about, and doing meaningful things and doing great work. And that's why, you know, I'm able to make a positive impact at HOK. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be there. Right. I know that I'm making good things happen. I know that I have the opportunity to mentor younger professionals and help them be successful. That's really important to me. And so when I go home and I'm like, you know what? I just help Joe and Sally and so on, you know, achieve good things. I just helped this client do some good things, connected them with a really smart person at HOK that's going to make their life easier. You know, it's a solid day's work.
Yeah, super rewarding.
Yes.
And fulfilling. That's
correct.
Ultimately, you know, we all want to feel, you know, fulfilled, and that we're, you know, moving the ball forward and,
yes.
and providing value, you know, to the world.
Yep. It sounds a little hokey.
Yeah, but
I really do think that you know, if you take a breath and you just focus on generosity, it comes back, and the stuff that you need and want will eventually come.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. And you know, it's using social media. It's said a lot, but it can't be said enough, and it can't be done enough. You know, because you know, we're in the service business day in, day out, but we're also, you know, we give a lot to friends and family and coworkers and, you know, all these loved ones in our network, but just be a giver, and everything else will take care of itself.
For sure.
And sometimes it's easier said than done, because, you know, life can be challenging sometimes, but just keep doing it, being disciplined, being consistent, and you know, you're gonna go away a happy person.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, just as we kind of get into a final segment, I do want to touch upon, you know, kind of your passion around artwork and you know, specifically in painting.
Sure.
And I definitely want viewers to hear and see what you're up to, how that's evolved. And then lastly, I want to make sure people know where to find you and find your great work.
Of course.
So maybe if you just spend a minute or so.
Yeah, I mean, you know, painting for me, again, not unlike architecture, where I had no background or education. I've never studied art either. It was always a passion of mine. I'm a self-taught artist, but art was always a way for me to, it's almost like a meditation. You know, I'll be honest, I'm prone to being stressed out and always have been. But when I'm painting, I'm only thinking about the painting. And that's really, it's a relaxing ritual for me to, you know, every weekend be painting in my studio, putting some great music on, and, you know, just doing the act of painting is just something that's wildly relaxing and rewarding for me.
Is that flow state for you? Is that?
I think that's an appropriate term for it, without a doubt. And it, you know, obviously I have converted my passion for painting into a business as well. So there's certainly business stresses that come along with any sort of commerce, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that has become a very important part of my life. It's, you know, my personal life, but also my professional life as well. If you walk into HOK's offices, my paintings are filled, are all throughout that office, and it's a very interesting world, the art world, which I've been able to navigate.
I'm sure you deal with obviously different people,
Yes.
different sets of just circumstances around it, you know, and I know you've had, I'm going to butcher the term, not showcases, but they're viewings.
I've had gallery expositions in New York and Santa Fe, as I've mentioned, but also I've done a variety of corporate commissions. I've been fortunate, again, to leverage my professional network into selling paintings, and which has been really rewarding. I've done numerous paintings for hotels and restaurants and corporate offices. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. When I was at the BBG Architects down the block, I was very young, and I had a series of color copies of my paintings in my cubicle. And at the time, the CEO of Accor Hotels was being toured around the office, and he stopped, and he grabbed my shoulder. He goes, "What are these?" I said, "Oh, they're my paintings." He goes, "Okay, do you have more?" And I had like a portfolio that I had printed, so I showed him. He goes, in the design meeting, he said, "I want this artist to do every painting in this next new hotel." So I was 26 years old. He, Sofitel Hotels,
Yeah, sure.
commissioned me to do almost 400 original paintings over the span of 2 years for their new hotel in Philadelphia, which was the former Philadelphia Stock Exchange. So I spent every waking minute of almost 2 years working on these original paintings for the hotel. And that turned into a really, a great art business for me, doing paintings for hotels and restaurants and kind of commercial art, which was kind of cool. And through that I met other gallery owners and so forth, and ended up, kind of taking off. I don't do that anymore. When you do things in your 20s and when you have no money and you just kind of hustle. But it was a great experience at the time.
Well, first of all, tremendous validation that your creativity caught the eye of somebody who probably has being in the hotel hospitality business, has an appreciation for that,
Right.
And to then commission you to provide all that artwork in that new hotel. That's awesome. I did not know that story.
Very, very, very fortunate. That was not stress-free either. My wife can attest to that. But it was overall ended up being a really great experience, and it launched what I think is a fairly successful art career, in addition to my work in architecture. Yeah.
Amazing.
For sure.
Amazing. Well, Chris, I can't. First of all, you have a great story, and you are a 10 out of a 10 human being. And
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I feel the same about you, my friend.
and so just like we're just getting rolling with these, this
Yeah.
show, and I'd love to come back to your office, shoot this from your office maybe later in the year, and you got that great view over Bryant Park.
Yep.
And maybe we could showcase some of your work to the audience. But I guess I'll kind of leave it with 2 points. One is I'm trying at the end of these episodes to get a little prediction from our guest. So I have my little crystal ball.
This is fancy. Yeah,
Right?
I like that.
And And if you have any, just predictions on trends, and whether it's business or life in general, people, I think, have a general sense of optimism here in 2025.
Without a doubt.
But would love to hear your take on the world.
I'll try my best. I can tell you this: I have, frankly, never been this bullish in I'll say my career at HOK in the past 19 years. I think that 2025 has started off. I can tell you from a volume standpoint, my team just in New York alone is responding to more RFPs and RFQs than we have in the past. I can't even remember, even beyond COVID. I mean, the market activity is strong, it's powerful, and the types of projects that we are positioning for, large civic projects, whether that's airport projects or very large hospital institutions that are doing some work, projects that are north of $1 billion. The number of those that are in the in the site finder, if you will, are it's phenomenal. So between New York, Boston, and Philadelphia, all of our staff count is higher than it's ever been. Fee volume is higher. So I'm really optimistic right now with 25. I think things are moving in the right direction. I'm ready. I wake up very early and I'm excited.
I love it. I love it. I think we're feeling and seeing a lot of the same things. So actually, I was just had CNBC on earlier, and even Jamie Dimon, who's building a $3 billion building here. There was some of his staff that was trying to push back a little bit from the return to office, and he said, "Don't waste your time, with signing a petition. This is what we're doing," and so just in our business, our day-to-day business of helping clients figure out their real estate, we've never felt more bullish as well.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, I think we're not even thinking about the return to office issue anymore. This is about, we have clients who are demanding the absolute best. And I think the design opportunity lies within offices, as you know, are being designed and look very, very differently. We have the benefit of having a really robust high-end hospitality design studio in New York. That design thinking is built into our corporate, our corporate projects. It's really resonates with many of our clients. I think that the nature of the office is just changing. Listen, we went from the agricultural age to the industrial age and the technology age. We're deep in it, and I think it's an opportunity for people who want to just roll up their sleeves and get to work and be excited to be in vibrant cities like New York.
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. Thank you.
Of course, anytime.
Best. You are the best.
I'm here for you.
I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be with us.
Awesome.
For our viewers, where can they find you? LinkedIn, Instagram?
I'm on LinkedIn, Christopher Laul, and I'm on Instagram as well, CR_Laul_studio.
Okay, and we'll post it.
And I'll send you those.
And we'll put it at the bottom, right?
And this has been a great conversation.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Of course. Awesome.